Hi guys, welcome back to the Fight Podcast with
Sharir.
and with me, Jan. Hi Sharir.
Hey Jan, how you doing?
I'm doing very fine. How about you?
I'm amazing.
So, in the last couple of podcasts, we talked a whole bunch about fighting, about the difference between. I know you don't like the term self-protection or self-defense,
Self-defense.
but the whole area of fighting without like a martial arts concept, also about martial arts. But I remembered that you, in one of the episodes, you said that an instructor for, again, you don't like it, but self-defense, there's a lot more to teach than just fighting. If you have an MMA coach and then you have a Krav coach or like a coach for self-protection, then you said, if I remember correctly, you said there's so much more to teach a person.
There's a lot more to know.
There's a lot more, much more.
Because you have also the aspect of the fighting, similar to you said MMA, similar to MMA. You know, striking, the clinching, the wrestling, the groundwork. You have all that. Plus, you have on top of that, for example, knife attacks, which is a very common thing in the street.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple opponents, which is a very common thing in the street as well. Maybe a guy with a stick, and so on and so forth. Plus, you have the whole mindset of a street fight or of an active killer situation. Crazy. Mm-hmm. You have to work on that, on de-escalating.
You don't necessarily know when a fight is gonna break out.
That's why you also have to work on identifying suspicious body language and behavior, stuff like that. So yeah, as a whole, there's a lot more to know. I'm not saying it happens. I would say that most self-defense, quote unquote, schools don't ever touch on those subjects, or they don't do it correctly. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot. If you're gonna go and you want to do it as a professional, really. There's a lot more to know than just fighting. The fighting aspect in the quote-unquote self-defense world should be already okay when shit hit the fan, right? If you're training for a sports fight, that is what you're training for. So you know exactly what's gonna happen. Mm-hmm. You're gonna go in the cage, in the ring, and there'll be a fight. But as far as in terms of survival. If you're fighting against a knife or against 2 or 3 people, shit already hit the fan. But there's a lot of stuff that could be done before to try to help you never or reduce the chances of you ever having to fight in the first place. Mm-hmm. And that's another job of the instructor.
So the idea is you have all of the fighting requirements that you also have in a ring, for instance, but then there's the added idea of, okay, now you have to...
The mindset, the weapons, the multiple opponents, identifying, de-escalating, also the fact that losing is not an option. Mm-hmm.
When you can't give up in position.
Yeah. Exactly. If you're doing a grappling, you give up position, you lost a round, whatever. Mm-hmm. You got 4 points on you. It's not the end of the world. In MMA... you give up a position, it's a little bit worse because you're going to get beat. Someone takes your back, is going to hit you or choke you, or the mount is going to, elbows in your face is never fun. But there is a ref in the cage that his job is to protect you. Mm-hmm. So yes, it's a real fight, and yes, you're going to get beat, but only for a few seconds. Afterwards, it's going to stop. Mm-hmm. And no one's going to rape you or steal your money or abduct you.
Also, I feel like most harsh injuries in a cage are usually by mistake. It's not the aim of an MMA fighter to actually injure his opponent, right?
Right.
So I think that's a big issue as well. While in a street fight, maybe you might think, I've seen you do it, or I've seen you show that, how to
with
just
intent.
break a knee away.
Yeah, break a knee exactly.
And that you wouldn't do that to an opponent just out of respect. If it happens, it happens. That might be, but it's an accident usually.
It's usually people breaking their shins, or their knee. It happens by mistake.
Or like an accidental eye gouge.
Yeah,
I've seen that happen in UFC. those types of things, they can happen, but it's not the whole idea of it.
Exactly.
And so if you you just said that there's, I think that's important for a lot of people that are just getting into all of this. Maybe people who already have some martial arts backgrounds, or who but who haven't seen the necessity of Krav Maga. What could that do for me? And also for people who are just starting out in general. Two things. One thing is, you said suspicious behavior, how you could identify that. Like, who is a potential perpetrator of something? How can I identify that? How can I prepare without being like super scared the whole time? And the other thing that I think is important is that there's a basic idea of just awareness, being aware of your surroundings. And these things need to be taught independent from fighting. And with your classes, for instance, how much would you say do you, like percent-wise, like how much do you talk about these things? It's not just the
quite
fighting.
Quite a lot. It's something that you keep also repeating during training. And also then you have scenario training, which you keep repeating or putting people through the scenarios, which in the scenario they might have to identify a suspicious person for any reason. So it's something that there's like a couple of classes you give on the topic, and then you just apply it into the training. So like when someone goes through a scenario, for example, after the scenario, you're gonna stop the scenario and say, okay, what happened? What did you think happened? Did you notice that guy? Did you notice that guy? Why was he suspicious? And that's a very good learning experience.
So for people who are used to martial art backgrounds, do you have lessons where it's basically a theoretical lesson where you just talk about stuff, or you go through certain scenarios, but they don't fight?
Not scenarios, but you go through different details on different ways to identify suspicious body language and suspicious behavior in people. Also, when you teach in the security world, a guy standing, guarding an area, if he doesn't know what to look for, he's just looking all the time. I mean, what are you looking for? So you have to know what to look for. You have to know the signs you want to look for in people. In most cases, not all the time, but in most cases, before an attack happens, the person doing the attack, he let out some kind of suspicious behavior sign. And then after the math, we saw him do this, we saw the guy do that, he was pacing, he was doing this and doing that. We weren't sure, we had a weird feeling about this guy. You hear that all the time. Everybody knew he's a little strange, this guy, but nobody said anything.
Yeah.
But that happens a lot. So there's lectures that I give on that topic, but you can only learn so much from a PowerPoint presentation. Afterwards, you have to apply it into training. But that's why when we say, if you're doing MMA, okay, there is no suspicious behavior in MMA. He has
it's pretty open, yeah.
He wants to hit you. I mean, that's pretty much it. So MMA, I say it a lot, is the closest aspect to a street fight.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important, as far as covering all the distances and as far as all the possibilities, the striking, the kicking, the clinch, the wrestling, the groundwork, just like a street fight. As far as the sensation, someone wants to hit you, you want to hit him back. The pressure is great. It makes you tough mentally, but it has its limits, and that's one of the limits, that it doesn't prepare you to de-escalate. It doesn't teach you how to identify, how to scan a crowd, for example, or how to identify suspicious behavior, how to stop it from ever happening. And that's another job. You use the term self-defense instructor. I prefer the term combat instructor. That's another job of the combat instructor. What he has to give to his students in class.
So combat meaning for a civilian, instructor, but not a martial arts training.
Yeah.
But
for example, me in the army, I'm a combat instructor. When I teach shooting, I'm a combat instructor. But in my gym, I'm called coach. Yeah. I'm coach. As far as the sports aspect goes, or as far as powerlifting. You know what I mean? But as far as the streets, military, all that. I teach and I get people ready for combat.
Mhm.
I'm not a self-defense instructor because I'm not a lawyer. But that's why I don't like that term, self-defense instructor. I don't teach people how to defend themselves. That's something that happens
As a consequence.
As a consequence, but I teach people combat.
Mhm. Because that mindset might be dangerous. If you're defending yourself, you're reacting.
Exactly.
And reacting is not enough. Also, I think it's important for people who have no martial arts or fighting experience in general to talk about why these things, like identifying suspicious behavior, all of these things are important. Because I've seen, especially online, sometimes the discussion of being like, okay, I know MMA, I can kick somebody's ass, and they think that's kind of where they draw the line. But especially with a lot of situations, when you look at how Hollywood portrays these things sometimes, there's this one guy, he fights 50 people, but they come one at a time. It never looks like that. And I think the big issue is some of the time, just knowing you're about to go into a rough situation can turn or can flip the outcome.
A lot of MMA fighters and wrestlers and grapplers out there who were stabbed to death or shot to death.
Mm-hmm.
Just recently, a couple of months ago, there was a person who was, I think he was 6 times world champion, who was shot to death. A jiu-jitsu guy. It happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you are a good fighter, and you are, of course, a good fighter, doesn't make you bulletproof or knife-proof or gang-proof as far as a lynch mob is concerned. And sometimes a person who does full contact has like a confidence to him, which is confidence is always important in a fight, obviously, in sports and in the street, because it's something you project, but sometimes it can also, false confidence can be very dangerous. Don't you know who I am? I don't give a shit who you are. I have a knife,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That happens. That's something that happens. But if the person knew how to de-escalate and talk his way out, or identify suspicions, so maybe he would see that the guy in front of him might have a knife, maybe he would save his own life. You can prepare. Yeah.
We talked, especially with your knife, with the knife fighting we do in ICCS. That's also an approach. Like we also deal with the knife draw and how you can work your way around that one. And I think that's an important lesson. Like a lot of these like choreographed things on YouTube, they're like, there's a gun to your, there's a knife to your throat. He holds it there, and then you do this crazy move, and everything's fine. But the issue is, especially with these things, preventing someone from entering a conflict is already winning the conflict. And these kind of things, if you're a good fighter, there's something to that, and it's important to have that, but it's not preventing these.
Yeah.
Also with multiple attackers, if you're able to smell these situations out, if you know these are about to happen, just the way that you move, you're not bound to move as let's call it stupidly. Like not that it's stupid, but you might do things that are counterproductive.
Also, the fact that you are aware of the situation, that there are multiple opponents.
Yeah.
Or you're aware of the reality that most fights are not a one-on-one situation. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be so eager to fight. Mm-hmm. Even if you're a professional MMA guy, or a great wrestler. Let's say you're a world champion wrestler, you could only wrestle one guy at a time. Mm-hmm. Not 5 people jumping you with beer bottles and
throwing shit maybe. Yeah.
Exactly. And if you go through that in your training as well, you learn how to respect the street and be more careful, or respect the knife. When we practice knife, right? You've done a lot of knife training with me. You get stabbed every single time.
Yeah, I still do every fucking time. Yeah.
But you minimize the damage, and you follow the principles of knife fighting, and you were able to win in many cases. But you still get stabbed. You're still going to be looking for a hospital. Mm-hmm. And I always say to people, hey, my job here, I'm not trying to make you feel good.
It's a reality check.
Just get into reality and respect the knife. Mm-hmm. And once you have respect for the knife, so even if you're a heavyweight and there's a guy in front of you who's a little tiny little spaghetti, you're still going to say, wait a second, if he's armed and, you're checking where his hands are.
Why is he talking to me like this? Like, how does he have this confidence?
Where's his confidence coming from? So, okay, maybe he has 10 friends hiding behind the corner. which that's a common thing. Or maybe he has a little butterfly, one of those little butterfly knives, in his hiding in his crotch, and that's another common thing, and it's enough that he goes one fast slice, boom, up to your throat, and you're over. Mr. Heavyweight is over for you. And that's the moment where you realize that even if you're the best back taker in the world, it's not going to help you.
That's also something that I thought a lot about lately with like these big, tall, like muscular dudes, especially with security at doors, for instance, that you have this like this certain aura, and that like all of all of this mass has like some sort of natural body armor. But these people, we talked about vital points. I don't know if you already did it here, but you talk about vital points a lot. These vital points still apply with these people.
It doesn't matter how big you are.
Yeah, it's still, you hit certain spots. The guy in front of
you is crazy. And he has a knife. It doesn't matter how big you are. There's a lot of memes, like they have in jiu-jitsu, they like to make fun of other arts. So they have like there's one meme I've seen where there's a guy on someone else's back in the cage, and it's like the moment you realize your bench press doesn't help you. Well, I mean, it's a funny meme, but I think it's ridiculous because you don't do bench press because you think it helps you with your. If you do, you have to. If you think it helps you with your grappling, that's why you do bench press. So, I mean, it's not the reason you want to be strong, or maybe you want to have a nice chest, I guess. But I lift for strength, and first of all, it does help me with my grappling. Strength helps you. With
strength in general,
and anybody who says strength doesn't help with your grappling is bullshitting you in your face. Come on. Of course it helps you with the grappling. Okay? Yeah, he has your back. Okay, so you can't bench press him off. But dude, if you have a good powerlifting torso and you do deadlift, you think it's much easier to turn back into someone than if you're little nothing who never lifts.
Yeah.
It's just the truth.
If you're weaker, your technique has to be so much more better.
When you practice, when you do weightlifting, you work in your core strength. And if you have a strong core, it's not so easy to hold your back. As if you don't do, all you do is like pull. Anyway, don't get me started. Okay, so
there was a rant incoming.
Yeah, but so like you could do the same thing. Like, let's say you were, me, I love wrestling, and you're standing in front of someone, and then he slashes your throat. So the moment you realize your sprawl doesn't work either. It's a ridiculous thing to say because of course your sprawl works when it's supposed to work. But you know what I mean? But you need...
It's not a miracle juice, yeah.
Exactly. But you need to be well-rounded in the street. And that's the point we're trying to make. And I say this a lot. Hey, you want to fight in the street, you have to be an expert at escaping bad positions. Not like, you should be an expert at escaping bad positions if you fight MMA because you'll lose sometimes if you reach those positions where you're weak at. But if someone takes your back in a grappling competition, worst comes to worst, it's going to choke you. In an MMA fight, worst comes to worst, it's going to hit you until you're unconscious or until you can't really defend yourself, and then somebody's going to protect you. He's standing right on top of you. But in the street, forget about the fact that no one's going to help you. Hitting the back of the head is not legal in any sports. But imagine you're in a turtle position and a guy's on top of you, holding you, controlling you by your hip, his knees by your knee on the side, and he has a nice, good base on you, and he's not hitting you. He's not trying to hit you in the jaw, behind the ear. In MMA, when that happens, you turn your head and he hits you behind the head, he gets a warning. He's trying to hit you behind your head as hard as he can. With his elbow, with his fist, or with a rock. If you're not an expert on escaping those positions, you're good as dead. A street fight is 37 seconds for that reason. So that's why I always say, you want to fight in the street, you should be an expert at escaping bad positions.
Yeah. You should be an expert in not even getting in them, but if you're in, then you should be.
You can't always avoid it, but you can't afford to lose. What if you're protecting your family or your girlfriend, and then someone smacks you down, puts you on your stomach, he sits on top of you, pounds the back of your head. You know what I mean? Think about that situation. You have to be an expert in escaping that position. And if you're training, let's say, and a whole round goes by with your partner and you weren't able to get him off your back, think about what would happen if that partner was in the street trying to kill you. in those 5 minutes or those 4 minutes, what would happen to you? And that would put you in the right mindset and give you the right motivation to keep practicing, to be able to, no, I can't have that. I can't allow that. So first of all, preventing it. Now, preventing it doesn't start when the fight already started. Yes, then you're going to have to prevent someone taking your back or someone taking you down or someone stabbing you, of course, and all that. But preventing starts with identifying suspicious body behavior, knowing how to scan a crowd, knowing how to de-escalate, all these stuff we could talk about maybe other times, because it's everything I just said is a whole other topic. We could talk about that for 2 hours at each subject. But that's where it starts. That's where it starts. And if you're not good there, you're in for a big surprise. Just like a lot of the Krav people or quote-unquote self-defense people are going to be in for a big surprise because they don't ever strike enough in training, they don't ever spar, they don't ever wrestle. So yes, they'll be in a big surprise because they're not ready for a fight. Well, so are the MMA community. Yes, they are very tough and probably more ready than a fight than a normal self-defense dude because they're tougher. But they're also going to be into a very big surprise when a guy pulls a knife or a guy calls his friends. And those two scenarios are the most common scenarios in a fight.
Yeah.
Because no one starts a fight thinking they're going to lose. So, a guy looks at your collar ears, oh, this guy looks like he's tough. Okay, I call a bunch of my friends up, wait for you outside.
Or you get the knife out instantly.
Exactly.
Because you know it's a tough opponent.
Exactly.
Just get the knife out.
Exactly. And if you don't know what to look for, you don't know how to find exits, you think you're all badasses because you fight MMA, you're going to be humbled, but the difference is you're going to be humbled maybe with your life. And that's important. That's why we started off talking today about, I said, a combat instructor needs to know and needs to give someone much more than a coach.
Yeah.
As far as that, because it's a bigger picture.
And especially if you have this, in general, it's not a false confidence to have a one-on-one fight and win it. That builds up your confidence. We talked about this in our last episode, like how can that benefit you as a person. But in this regard, it's kind of like a false confidence because the rules are different. You play a different game in the street.
Not false confidence, but you're lacking in your ability and you don't realize it. Now, if it's a one-on-one scenario, yes, sure, you're a very dangerous person. What if a guy has a knife and you're lacking? You don't even know to look for that. What if the guy has friends? You don't even know to look for that. You have no idea because no one ever told you, hey, listen, the guy's smaller than you. What do you think? Look, no one starts a fight thinking they're going to lose. Unless he's a guy who comes to die, like a terror attack over, religion or something like that. Then he doesn't mind. But in his eyes, he's not losing, he's winning. You realize that?
Yeah.
In his eyes, the fact that he's dead, he just won. So no one starts a fight thinking they're going to lose.
If you're talking about the situation with friends, I think how would you identify a group? Like if you're talking to one person, that person surprises you. It's just like you're out, you're celebrating something. One person comes up and this whole thing is getting weird. Okay, this might get rough. This is a weird situation. How would you identify who is with that person?
In a group scenario.
How could you see which one of the people around you in a crowd maybe who belongs to that one?
Usually through eye contact with you or with what's going on around you. Sometimes one of the suspicious behavior signs is called hidden connection. Sometimes you'll see that through there. That means that when you look at the two people, it's obvious to you that they know each other, but they're hiding that fact. That's suspicious. Why are you hiding the fact? Why are you hiding the fact that you're his friend? Because maybe they're trying to get you outside. Maybe they're planning some kind of ambush.
So it looks like there's just one person, but they might be four or something. Yeah.
Exactly. Guy who's walking backwards a lot, trying to lure you in somewhere else. He's being very aggressive, but he's also not. Usually a guy who's aggressive is moving forward. That makes sense for you? But a guy who's being aggressive is kind of moving backwards, trying to bring you forward. Also a little bit weird. As far as the fact. And also just, you walk into a scenario, you have no idea who's who or what's against what. Keep your eyes open. You learn a lot.
So you might, or your tip would be to have a grasp of what is happening around you.
As far as the scenario that you gave, the scenario that you gave with how would you know if he has friends or not? Always go on the assumption he has friends.
Mm-hmm.
That's always go. So when I'm,
so you're looking for who is it, and not if
you have
they're
to be a professional, and not take it personal, and not start being all like dramatic about it. But when I'm arguing with someone or trying to, I would say, de-escalate the situation, he's in your face. I'm scanning the area for potential friends of his, potential weapons for me, the exit, and stuff like that. I'm working. You know what I mean? I'm going into a professional mode. I'm not like just in his face, all angry. And because anger is a very dangerous thing. Anger is not aggression. I think we spoke about that once.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Controlled aggression is what you want to have in a fight. Controlled aggression, not just pure anger. That's very dangerous.
Because then you get sloppy.
Because then you don't think. You work with an emotion. And every time you work with an emotion, you don't think. So that's the idea.
Mm-hmm. And with, in general, because you talked about this earlier as well, you said that there's certain signs of suspicious behavior. There's certain things you can look out for. If you're not in the, let's say, security realm, okay, you're not protecting something, you're not about to, it's not about security stuff. It's about someone in his or her everyday life. What are things that make someone suspicious to you in that context?
Suspicious signs.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple. If we're gonna make it, well, let's take it one by one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Usually, the first thing you'll notice about a person is his appearance in life, right? If someone goes for a job interview, what's the first thing people notice about him? How he looks, his appearance, mm-hmm. right? That's why it's so important to. I mean, I guess if you go to a job interview, to dress accordingly.
To look nice, yeah.
If someone goes to a party, right? People really care about what they're gonna dress, how they're gonna look, because they understand that's the first impression, right? That's why it's always good to look nice. But I think the best way, if you're gonna go to a party, the best way is to. If someone asks afterwards, hey, what was he wearing? What was she wearing? It's the best thing to. I don't remember, but he looked nice. I think that's the best.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it simple that way. You don't want to stick out like a dog's buttocks. But
when asked, good impression.
Yeah, exactly. So the first suspicious sign, if you're looking at people, the first thing that's going to pop into any person's eye is the person's appearance. So that's the first suspicious sign. I'm looking for anything suspicious in someone's appearance. Okay.
So what might that be? Just looking weird?
No,
not fitting
weirdness.
in?
Weirdness is another sign.
Okay.
Because a person his appearance could be great, but he's weird.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another sign. Sometimes they come together. A lot of times, two suspicious behavior signs will come together, which it's even going to arouse your suspicion more.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But that's another sign. Appearance, I mean, anything out of the ordinary in how the guy looks, the guy or the girl. I can give you one example from Israel. A couple of years ago, a guy walks on a bus wearing a uniform, army uniform. And since in Israel everybody does the military, or most people do, so people understand how a uniform's supposed to look. The guy was wearing his beret on the wrong shoulder.
So wearing the uniform was not out of place.
No, but he had this pins
mm-hmm.
and his beret on the wrong side, wrong shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And his color of his boots were the wrong color for the beret. Now, most people around the world were like, we don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But since,
Fashion police, what's up? Yeah.
But since in Israel everybody does the military, everybody knows how the dress code of the military is.
Mm-hmm. So
that's a sign of suspicious something in his appearance, right? People were calling the police to alert a suspicious person by the time he already started shooting up the bus, right? So that's a live example of something that, out of the ordinary. But let's say you're on a beach, right? In the summer, it's hot, and this is Europe, so everybody's in Speedos.
Is that what you think of Europe? Everybody drinks wine and wears Speedos.
You know it's true, right? You know that's
okay,
true, right?
Everybody's in Speedos at the beach.
Everyone's in Speedos on the beach and bikinis, and then there's a guy with a trench coat. That's weird. Now, does it mean that he came to kill everybody on the beach? No.
But you should keep an eye.
You should keep an eye on him. And if you are there to protect the beach, if you're a cop or some security guy, it's your job to clear that suspicion.
And talk to the person.
Talk to him and clear the suspicion. You know what I mean? So those are two examples. I mean, for something out of the ordinary in someone's appearance. Also, anywhere you go in the world, I would say there's like a certain dress code people have, even without speaking about it. People dress a certain way, it's fashion or whatever. And then there's a guy or girl who's like totally out of it, the way they're wearing. That's a little suspicious. Again, it doesn't mean that he or her are terrorists or rapists or muggers, but it's something that should alert a little bit your suspicion. That makes sense?
Or it's more about, does the look make sense in general?
Exactly.
Because you might have a group and there's one person that belongs to another group, but it fits in the other group, so it makes sense still.
Years ago, I used to work at this place. It was a security company that the job was to identify suicide bombers, basically. So scanning a crowd and looking for suspicious people. And this was in Jerusalem. So I'm across the street from a bus stop, and I'm looking at the bus stop, and I see a guy sitting in between two girls. Now, he's an Orthodox Jew. You know how they dress with the black hat, black suit?
And the long hair on the side.
No, not all of them have long hair, but a black hat, black suit, beard. So, okay. But the thing about him, number one, he was sitting in between two girls. They would never do that. They would never sit next to a woman if it's not his wife. Okay? They would never do that. So that was already a little bit weird for me. And second thing is, this is going to be a little funny, he was wearing pink sneakers, pink tennis shoes.
So the outfit
was lacking. I mean, you have this Orthodox guy, very religious, but pink tennis shoes doesn't fit into. So that was suspicious. So I have to clear that suspicion, right? So I walk over to him. I say, "Good morning, security," and his response was he had a bag on his lap to quickly put both hands in the bag as fast as he could. So in my mind, I'm about to explode, I'm like, damn. But
it's a fucked up day.
I follow his hands as fast as I can into the bag, grabbing his hands, and I'm trying to take his hands out while I'm breaking his wrists. And then he starts speaking. And when he started speaking, I understood the guy's just a little bit weird, a little bit crazy. Because I could hear his accent and things he was saying. So, I mean, that could happen, But that's an example for suspicious clothing. Anybody listening could take it to their own, where they live in their own little world, But the first thing you would ever notice about a person in any walk of life is his appearance. Because you don't know his personality, you don't know, what food he likes, but you know how he looks because that's what you see. So that's the first thing is appearance.
And with weirdness, you would put that together with nervousness? Is that the same? No, it's different.
So the second suspicious behavior sign would be nervousness. A guy who's nervous. Now, nervousness, again, like I said, it could come with appearance too. It usually will. If it's a real bad guy, it would come usually with two. Okay, but nervousness would be, the signs of nervousness would be, for example, wiping sweat. A guy who's sweating, nervous, right? Pacing back and forth, getting upset, agitated if someone touches him by mistake, nervous, Why is that suspicious? Do you have any idea? Why would that be suspicious? A guy
Because
who's
he's
nervous?
very excited.
Because he's
It's
about to do
yeah.
something
Yeah.
illegal or something dangerous. So he's nervous. You have guys who fight in the cage or in the ring who hop up and down or pace back and forth, run around the cage. That's normal. He's nervous. He's trying to psych himself up, right? So go back to the beach with the guy with the trench coat when all the rest of you have your Speedos. He has a trench coat and he's nervous. Isn't that a little bit more suspicious?
Mm-hmm.
See what I mean? So that's the second sign usually I would look for, because that also will pop into your eye really quickly. A guy who's nervous, not really quickly, not as quick as appearance maybe, but the second quickest. Because I still don't know, I still didn't talk to him, but I see the guy is weird, you know? I mean, not weird as far as, I mean, it's suspicious as far as the way he's pacing back and forth as he's wiping sweat. Maybe he's talking to himself. All that isn't, you know, that's a big no-no.
What do you think of the opposite effect if you have like a crowd and something loud
That
happens
brings us.
and one person does not react
So
in
that
the
brings
same way?
us to the third sign.
Mhm.
Okay, the first two were appearance and nervousness. The third sign is weirdness. That also is a suspicious way of behaving.
Mhm.
A guy who's just weird. Now, I'll give you examples for that. Tunnel vision. A guy who's just, let's say, he's sitting at a bus stop or sitting outside this big shopping center or outside this discotheque, and he's just looking inside. But like tunnel vision, he's blocking everything out around him. Doesn't notice anybody. Someone wants to talk to him, he doesn't even hear him. He's just looking into one direction all the time. It's very similar to fighters. Like we said, you know, one fighter is going to be pacing around, hopping back and forth, being nervous, hyperactive, so to speak. And then you have another kind of fighter who's just like, he has tunnel vision. He's just like in there, you know, maybe a little moving back and, you know, weaving a little bit like a leaf or something. But he's just looking at his opponent, blocking out the crowd, blocking out the ref, blocking out even sometimes his corner, just looking at his opponent.
Weird thing is I've experienced both things, which is one is like I'm nervous, and then it's like, okay, I'm about to be tested, I'm about to fight, and then
they don't always contradict each other.
Mhm.
They don't always but it's human behavior.
Mhm.
So that's another thing I would notice on someone. So signs for weirdness would be exactly that: tunnel vision, not recognizing when people talk to him. You know, he doesn't see anything but a specific area. Weird. Everyone's maybe running, like you said, or laughing or shouting, depending on the scenario. He's just sitting there or standing there, out of it, in his own zone, in his own world.
Mhm.
Weird. So, does that mean he's a bad guy who came to blow himself up, to
He
shoot
might
people,
just have
to
a bad
stab
day.
people, to rape? Well, he just might be a weird guy.
Yeah.
But it's your job as, if you're in the security field, it should be your job to clear that suspicion. Or if you're not, at least to get out of there or to warn people or maybe to call the police on people who should do their job. So that's important to understand. That's the third sign.
So you think if you're out and about and you see one of these things or maybe two of these things, you think that already justifies talking to security personnel, to police, whatever?
For sure, 100%.
You think that's a thing you should do?
And they'll also take you more seriously. You see, if you call up police and say, "Hey, someone out there, I have a bad, I don't know, the guy's this and that and this and that," and I'll say, "Okay, you're just being paranoid."
Mm-hmm.
But if you know how to pinpoint your exact suspicion,
He doesn't
tell
fit.
them the guy
He's
is weird.
Yeah.
His appearance is weird. The guy is he has tunnel vision. They'll take you more seriously.
Mm-hmm.
They'll take you more seriously. Oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. And there's a bigger chance of them coming and checking it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Next suspicious sign. Okay, I gave already 3, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
First thing is
appearance, nervousness, and weirdness.
Okay. The next one is I would say the most problematic one, because this is where people don't act upon it. It's called a hunch,
Mm-hmm.
a gut feeling. If you have a gut feeling about someone that something is not right, that is a suspicious sign. And more than that, like I can tell you, in the professional world, they would treat that sign just like any other sign, with 100% seriousness.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're a person who is used to working with other people. That means you are a cop or someone who's outside with people all the time. And then you just have this bad feeling about this person. You should always clear that suspicion as well by conversation or by something, but you have to treat that as... How many times after a school shooting, in the U.S. or something, we knew that guy's strange, everybody thought he's strange, but nobody said anything.
Like the whole community knew him for being strange.
The thing is, nobody wants to offend anybody.
Mm.
So they're so afraid of offending someone, they end up dead.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And there's ways of doing it without really offending people. When I had that sign with people, I would always walk over with a smiley face and say a nice, like a little act, a little joke or something. And you get a smile out of anybody usually, if he's not here to kill you. Okay, so it's very doable. It's very doable. But people are so bashful about that, or shy, and like, I don't want to offend anybody, so they just prefer to shut up.
Mm-hmm.
But, the human was created with a hunch, you know what I mean? With a gut feeling, and I think that was put there on purpose for many aspects of life, but one of them is to help you, survive.
Identify danger, yeah.
Exactly. Let's say, you're female, and you're in the last one out of the office in that day, and in the building, and there's an elevator, and a guy walks in, and he's like holding the door. Hey, come on, But something doesn't feel right. The guy doesn't have any suspicious signs, but except for the hunch. But something doesn't feel right. Don't go into that elevator. I don't care if you hurt his feelings or not. I say, no, I forgot something upstairs, or I gotta, you know what I mean? Just don't.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's there for a reason, So that's a one suspicious behavior sign that sometimes people miss or mess up.
With the first three, you said you went over to someone, talked to that person. I was just wondering how, especially if you have a hunch, if you have this feeling, or if you see someone who has some suspicious attributes, and you talk to them, what's the idea? Because if you see someone is weird, you talk to them, you find out, okay, they're weird. What's the idea now?
To clear the suspicion.
Okay.
So I like to, when I teach this, call it attack the suspicion, basically. Attack the problem. Okay, so I don't know, if a guy's in a bus stop and it's summer and he has a coat on, walk up to him, good morning, where are you going? He tells you, I'm going to this and this place. Okay, what bus number? This bus. Everything makes sense. That bus does get there, and that's where he's going. And he answers you calmly, normally. Fine, it just clears your suspicion.
Mm-hmm.
You could sometimes even say, hey, you have a coat on, you're cold, as a joke. Sometimes people like it, sometimes they don't. But it's all.
Yeah.
You smile at someone, it's always okay. But you want to clear that suspicion. So you want to ask him a normal question and get back a normal answer. Sometimes even F you is a normal answer. It's not personal. I'm not trying to be his friend. I just want to see that everything's fine with him. So he got offended because what do you think, I'm a bad guy? Fine. Whatever. If that's your job. If you're just a guy, and who are you to walk up to someone and speak to them, So just be alert. Maybe, cross the street, or maybe alert someone who is his job to speak to him and talk to him,
And what if the suspicion hardens? What if you see, okay, this is weird? Because you can't just punch someone for being weird.
If this is weird, and again, so it depends on your job. If you're a cop, you have no problem. You could detain someone for that. You know what I mean? You could.
Mm-hmm.
You're not breaking any law by doing that, right? If you were just a guy or girl, so alert people who could.
Yeah,
Just
but
walk
you're
away
just
from it.
out about at a fair or something. You see this guy doesn't fit it. This is weird. You talk to him. You see, okay, this doesn't really add up.
So walk away.
Just stay clear of
Yeah,
him.
stay clear. Stay
Okay,
clear.
maybe talk to someone whose job it is to
find someone whose job it is to help you with that.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that
But
will be.
you know, that's the smart thing to do. I mean, if you're in an argument with someone, you know, and you're scanning and you see a guy next to him who has tunnel vision on you or is pacing back and forth, or that might be his friend.
Mhm.
You know, that might be his friend. You know, that brings us to the next sign of suspicious behavior is hidden connection.
Mhm.
That means that you see two people that when you look at them, two or more people, when you look at them, it's obvious to you that they know each other.
Maybe by the way they dress, or
By the way they dress, or maybe they're, you know, signaling to each other,
Mhm.
texting each other. Let's say two guys on the same bus, same train, texting each other. Look, two sides of the street. So when you look at them, it's obvious that they know each other, but they're hiding that fact. That is weird.
Mhm.
That's suspicious.
Mhm.
Why are you hiding that fact? So it might be to kick your ass. It might be for other reasons, you know. Kidnapping is one big reason. Sometimes terrorist attacks is a guy who brings the other person there and walks away. The guy who collects the intel.
Mhm.
You know, it could be for rape, for mugging, for anything. Trying to lure you to come into this alley, to come out of this party, to come out of this house to somewhere quiet.
big issue can also be like gang initiations when someone has to prove themselves. That's also a thing.
A
Yeah.
big thing is exactly. So that's another suspicious behavior sign is hidden connection.
Mhm.
You know, all these what we're talking about is things that, just as a tough fighter, you never think about because no one ever tells you this stuff.
You're always surprised by.
You will never
the
think
fight.
about it. You know, what do you mean? I'm doing MMA for 10 years. Okay, that's great, and that does give you the huge advantage over everybody almost,
Mhm.
but not over 6 people who are hiding with clubs outside your door. You know, only thing that can help you prepare for that is this kind of training. You know, situational awareness and that identify suspicious behavior and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Are there? I think we now listed 5 signs.
there's more. There's a couple more.
Are there more?
There's always
But I
more.
think that's too much for one episode.
Okay.
No, I'm just asking. Like I'm not sure how many you still have left.
There's a couple more.
5. Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple more. We could go through them if you want, or we could wait. That's
I
up to you.
think just by the timing, I think we should do that next episode.
No problem.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
continue. Yeah.
Let's wrap this up.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, it's great to see you again.
It was great to see you again.
Yeah.
So I think now we have the topic for next time. See you then.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.